Thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to learn about how GS1 QR codes are reshaping information sharing across industries. And this webinar is brought to you today by QR Tiger and partnership with GS1 US. And Ned Mears is here with us from GS1, and he's going to be fully participating today. Hi, Ned.
Hi, good to see you.
Good to see you as well. Okay, well, let's go ahead and dive in. The global supply chain is evolving into a new era, and it's only natural that businesses keep up with the times. We're here to give you a sneak peek into the future so your business can stay ahead of the curve. GS1 has put out an initiative called Sunrise 2027, which involves the GS1 Digital Link QR code. And I'm going to say that phrase a whole bunch during this presentation. It's quite a mouthful. This webinar intends to inform businesses about it so they can prepare for the transition from one dimension to two-dimensional barcodes. So let's get to know GS1 and their Sunrise 2027 initiative. GS1 is the global organization that sets barcode standards worldwide. They created the barcodes that you see on every product. If you've ever scanned a barcode at a grocery store, you've already interacted with GS1 systems. Their standards help businesses track, manage, and share product information efficiently and effectively. But the way we use barcodes is about to change. This is
Yeah,
where Sunrise 2027 comes in. Go ahead, Ned. Sorry.
sorry about that. Yeah. This is exactly where Sunrise 2027 comes in. It's part of a global initiative to move from 1D to 2D barcodes, with 2027 being a critical milestone in that. But why do this, right? Why the shift? What we see a lot is that today's consumers want more information about the products that they're purchasing, right? Ingredients, sourcing, sustainability information, even promotions. And businesses also need better traceability, efficiency, and visibility in their supply chains. And honestly, that's exactly what 2D barcodes offer. Enhancements to product transparency, consumer engagement, and also supply chain efficiency and visibility.
So who will be affected? This transformation will impact everyone in the supply chain, from manufacturers to retailers and consumers. The industries that'll feel the biggest impact first include retail and e-commerce, logistics, food and beverage, healthcare and pharmaceutical, apparel, electronics, just to name a few. But why two-dimensional barcodes? Unlike traditional one-dimensional barcodes, 2D barcodes can store so much more information. The one-dimensional barcode only contains numbers, right? But the 2D barcodes, like QR codes, hold information that caters to all members of the supply chain all the way through to the consumer. The traditional 1D barcode can be scanned for checkout and inventory by the store, but that's about it. The 2D barcodes can do the same thing, but also they can show the allergen information, video tutorials, promotional content, sustainability information. And this can all be done with the GS1 Digital Link QR code. It's a mouthful.
Great, awesome. So yeah, what is the GS1 Digital Link QR code? What does this mean? In the simplest terms, this is the next generation barcode that is going to allow us to combine product identification with a web link for digital experiences. So one scan can connect users and consumers to a web page, to a file, any online resource, the way a QR code works. And if done with the GS1 system, it still works at the checkout, right? So it's basically two things in one, right? I like to say the best two for one in retail, right? Functions as a barcode for checkout and in any of the supply chain scanning uses, but it also acts as a digital gateway, which links consumers to online product information. All right, so here's an example, something you might see in a supermarket, right? So can of soda, the QR code is scanned at checkout. System reads that product ID from the QR code. And at the same time, when a consumer scans that same exact code with their smartphone, it redirects them to a landing page, a video, a file, or additional content that they can engage with for the product. The beauty of using GS1 Digital Link and a QR code is that it adapts to those different uses, right? So retailers, distributors, consumers all get the right information that's relevant to them at the right time using the exact same barcode without needing multiple different markings on the product or multiple different technologies. This flexibility makes product packaging smarter, first of all, but also more interactive. And especially as we look at checkout and supply chain use cases, much more future-proof and ready for the next generation of supply chain data.
Absolutely.
So how does it all work? How does it actually work behind the scenes? Every product with a barcode today has a standard identifier. We call that the GTIN, which is an acronym for Global Trade Item Number. This is the same thing as a UPC or an EAN number in a 1D barcode. GS1 Digital Link is able to convert that GTIN into a web-friendly 2D barcode, like a QR code. So essentially that product ID you see on the left is now integrated into the web address that you can access through the QR code. All right, if we move on to this is my favorite part here. So what you can see here embedded in the digital link, right? Which is again, just a link which is written to the QR code. It has the product key, that's the GTIN. It has a variant, right? So a version of that product, right? Batch lot number, a serial number, and let's see, yep, and additional data attributes. That 11 is a date value. None of those can fit into a 1D barcode, especially a UPC. And that's what makes this more advanced in using a 2D code that also has the web URL, right? This is what makes it possible for consumers, anyone with a smartphone, end users, to access more information about the product, right? While also carrying that critical supply chain data that can be captured at any point in the product's journey as it moves from source to shopper. Another thing that's really great about using this method, right, about using GS1 Digital Link is the flexibility, right? Companies can update that linked content, right, that experience that the consumers are going to whenever they need to without having to reprint product packaging or going through another packaging cycle, for example. That means consumers and businesses always get the latest information, the most updated digital content at their fingertips with no additional cost to the sort of physical product or the physical world.
Absolutely. So now let's highlight the major benefits businesses will gain by using GS1 Digital Link codes. And if anyone has questions, feel free to put them in the chat and we'll get to those here shortly. So one code for everything. Right now, many products have multiple barcodes. One for checkout, another for supply chain tracking, and sometimes a separate QR code for marketing. It takes up valuable packaging space and can create confusion about which code to scan, right? Like, have you ever been to a big box store and you're doing self-checkout, you grab the wand and you go scan something and it's not working, right? Because you're scanning the wrong code. I've done this multiple times with a big box or even a dog food bag, right? I've done this so many times. The lady has to come over and help me. So with GS1 Digital Link QR codes, businesses can consolidate these functions into a single all-in-one barcode that works for checkout, just like the traditional barcode, connects supply chain partners to product data, batch information, inventory details, and provides consumers with easy access to ingredients, sustainability, promotions, even user guides. By eliminating redundant barcodes, businesses can create a cleaner package design, reduce printing costs, ensure consistency across different retail environments, right? So there's a lot of different benefits you can think about. Easy data sharing. Traditional barcodes store limited information, like Ned was just explaining, right? So if you want to learn more about a product, you most often would end up looking up different sources, go on the website, right? You go to different places to get all of this detail. The GS1 digital link, however, acts like a universal address, connecting products at real time, web-based data from different sources. This means information sharing across the entire supply chain is seamless and efficient. So with just the one code, a retailer can quickly verify a product's authenticity and even the recall status, right? So think about that. More quickly get recall information. A distributor can check a product's shipping history, regulatory compliance, and consumers can access up-to-date product details. It's not static anymore, right? It's dynamic now. And all of this with just the scan of one code. Specific and detailed information. So standard one-dimensional barcodes only identify product types and not the specific batch or the individual items. This means it can only identify the product type and not the batch or the serial number. So for example, you have a box of chocolates. A regular barcode would only tell you that it's a box of chocolates. It wouldn't tell you the flavor, the expiration date, the specific box might have been recalled. With the GS1 digital and QR codes goes further by allowing businesses to encode specific batch numbers, expiration dates, serial numbers into their QR codes. So this unlocks advanced tracking capabilities, including better recall management. Right? If a batch of dairy product is recalled, retailers can pinpoint the affected units instead of removing the entire product lines. Enhances counterfeit prevention. Luxury brands and pharmaceutical companies can use unique QR codes to verify product authenticity. And expiration date tracking. Retailers can rotate stock more efficiently and reduce food waste by identifying older inventory first. This level of detailed identification makes supply chains more precise, secure, and responsive to potential risks. Real-time data updates. One of the biggest limitations of the traditional barcode is that like I said, it's static. Once a barcode's printed, it can't be changed. With the GS1 digital QR codes, businesses can update the linked digital content at any time without reprinting the code itself, right? That's the beauty of the dynamic codes. Marketing teams can update promotional information dynamically. Manufacturers can get new certifications, warning, or instructions out without altering the packaging. Retailers can provide real-time stock or pricing information to consumers scanning the code. So for example, imagine a seasonal product with a QR code. In the summer, the link can direct consumers to beach-themed recipes using the product. In the winter, the same QR code could update to holiday-specific promotions or gift ideas, right? You get the idea. It's way more dynamic. The ability to adapt and evolve without physically reprinting the GS1 digital link is cost-effective, future-proof. And with these benefits, it's clear that the GS1 digital link codes, wow, that is such a mouthful, are more than just a barcode upgrade. They're a game changer, really, for our businesses, for the retailers, for the consumers, and everyone in the supply chain. And as we've seen today, the GS1 Sunrise 2027 initiative is more than just a barcode upgrade. It's an opportunity to make things easier, more efficient, more engaging for both the businesses and the consumers. With just one QR code, you can handle checkout, inventory tracking, compliance, even direct consumer product details, promotions, interactive content. Really, it's a win-win. And with 2027 really right around the corner, right, we have to start planning now. And the good news is you don't have to figure this all out on your own. Like, we're here. GS1 is here. We're here to help. So with that being said, we know this is a big transition. You might have questions about what this means for your business. That's why we're excited to have GS1 US here today. And they're going to help answer any questions you might have, provide expert insights straight from the source. So if there's anything you'd like to ask, go ahead and drop your questions in the chat, raise your hand. Let's make this an open conversation. And if we don't get any questions, we have some stock wins ready to go.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. This is always my favorite part.
All right. Do you see the chat?
I do. I don't see anything in there yet.
Oh, he sent it directly to me. So Michael asked, in 2027, do we have to switch or is it just optional? Which time will there be a mandatory switch?
Cool. Yeah, that's a great question. And we get that all the time. I think the way Melissa phrased it before, this is more, it's more of an opportunity is the way to look at it. This is not a regulatory deadline. This is not coming from, a government agency for some safety regulation, right? Um, and what really is at the core of Sunrise 2027 is making sure that that retail point of sale hardware, right? The satisfying beep at the checkout, that is enabled to read these 2D codes once they start to sort of filter through the supply chain, right? So in terms of the requirement, right? That's, I think, what'll have the biggest impact, right? Retail readiness, technology readiness. But from the brands, people putting products out there with packaging, right? There really isn't a reason why you would need to wait. You can start now. Um, but being ready by 2027 is going to be a huge advantage, I think, for a lot of businesses in being future proofed and being able to unlock all of these technologies before the sort of rest of the market might catch up.
Another question, thank you. Another question is there enhanced security with this type of QR code?
Yeah, so it's important. It's important to say definitely that it is at the end of the day, it is a link. So if there are ways for bad actors to exploit a link, hijack your website, things like that, it still functions in that same sort of space, right? The difference of using the GS1 system with your links, using digital link, means that you have a verifiable registry of all those GTINs, all the product information, right? So as this progresses forward, there's also going to be a place for you to register those specific links that can be verified. And GS1 will manage all the sort of open standards that make all of that possible. So we're not going to be able to prevent everything, but using the GS1 system means you have a reliable source of truth for that product information and the links attached to the packaging.
Right. Um, Fast Tracks Transfast 6. Wow, I read that wrong. Says, I work in the trucking industry where we have our own inventory room with stock. How do we go about transitioning our stock room to 2D barcodes? And will these barcodes link to our inventory systems or is this a separate system?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the in an environment like that, the way to think about it is you do need to evaluate uh, can the scanners, right, if they're handhelds or mounted, whatever that is, are they capable and configured to read 2D, right? That's the first step. What is the scan environment? Are the scanners ready? There's a ton of free tools, installable data packets, code snippets, things like that that GS1 provides for free to make sure that that is enabled. Um, and then to the second point of that question, once the hardware is ready, all of those free tools and libraries we provide means you can scan it and it'll just strip out the product information you want. So it could be the full web string, and I just want to grab the product ID so I can do an inventory count. If you do use the web link in that environment, you would own where that link sends you, and that could go directly to an ERP system or a custom screen or some other type of way to integrate it. So there's two ways. I scan the barcode, I'm just feeding a data element to my ERP system or whatever, or I'm using the web enablement, and then that is directing me to be able to get that information put in. But it's a hardware, making sure that's ready, upgrading any labeling, case labeling, things like that with the 2D, and then exactly how you're going to pass the data. That's the process I would look at.
So Michael actually had a clarifying question just to follow up. So there's no fading out of the barcode. It will probably still work in example 5 years.
Yes, so that's exactly why we use the term sunrise 2027 instead of sunset, right? So you think about how complex and how many different pathways there are in the retail environment, how many just hot sauces there are on the shelf in any supermarket, right?
Yep.
Um, it's about enabling 2D for all of those scanning applications. And there definitely will be a period of time for products where they might have to dual mark, right? So retailer A, B, and C, they are ready to go, no big deal. If you're selling through those channels exclusively, you'll be able to move just to 2D. But if you have a really broad variety of sales channels and retail partners, large ones, small ones, and a lot of mix in between, having both barcodes there might be the right choice. And the 1D barcode should be able to scan and read the exact same way that it always has. No one's turning that capability off, I guess is the takeaway.
Um, Robert asks, is the iPhone capable of reading GS1 digital ink today?
Yeah, yep, yeah. The nice thing is the smartphone functionality that's fully baked. It works exactly the same way any QR code does with a smartphone. It's really in standardizing the way the data is written, right? So instead of a URL that takes you to a website, it's the URL and that unique product ID and any other attributes about the product. It's the structure of the data in the code that opens up.
Oh, I think you froze. I hope it was you that froze and not me. Not quite sure. There's a quick little pause there on my end. I don't know. Um, Tadisha asks, are the intentions of the brand what items to include in the 2D barcode and the requirements of retailers, what items they want in the 2D barcode coordinated?
So this is another great question. So the best way to approach a question like this is where our guidance and where I think everyone should be aligned is including the GTIN, so the product ID, right? If you're only doing that, retailers that are, as soon as they give you the green light, they're ready to scan it, they will be enabled with the GTIN. And the same thing, brands should be putting at minimum the GTIN in there. Once it gets past that, right, this is where the conversation is more brand and retailer focused, right? So if you, for example, let's say you're selling a product with a quick expiry date, food, fresh prepared sandwiches, dairy, eggs, something like that. If you want to put the expiration date in your digital link so that you can tell consumers it's close to that expiration date, right? You want their web experience to know that information, you can go for that. And maybe every retail partner you have isn't ready to capture expiration date. They'll literally just throw that data, let's say, on the floor and just use the GTIN to look up the price, right? But you can certainly expect at some point retailers are going to start to ask for additional data, right? For food traceability and safety, they might say certain products we need the lot code now included, and we'll capture that at point of sale, and then we can feed recall data and take traceability past the point of sale down to the customer.
Okay. So Krista had a few questions. The first one I'm going to answer out loud because this isn't the first question. First person to ask, is the presentation going to be available afterwards? And yes, we'll send the recording. So everyone who was here and who missed it today. She said she missed the first 9 minutes. How do you control who sees information? So the consumer, the vendor, etc. Like who
Yeah.
sees what information? Yeah.
Yep. So definitely, from a brand standpoint, for you own the URL, you own the web address, and you own the data that comes after that. So whatever that directs the consumer to, you have complete control of that. In terms of how let's say a distributor or someone in the supply chain might use that, they really can configure their system to just grab the GTIN or to just grab the expiration date if they're doing fresh food management, something like that. But no one should be able to, let's say, corrupt the redirect of the web experience. That is something the brand is always going to own because they're dictating what the redirect is. But in terms of is a retailer going to capture my web address at point of sale and store that and then analyze against that data? That's also a possibility. But I wouldn't say that anyone reading these barcodes is going to have the ability to completely corrupt, customize, or do malicious actions against the barcode based on the way the brand's written it. Hopefully that answers the question.
She also asks, so for regulatory or regulated products like cannabis, tobacco, could you dictate different barcodes for different regulatory and another like for regulatory and another for marketing?
Yeah, so it's an interesting conversation happening right now in healthcare, certainly. So we're talking about QR codes today. That's the focus of this with Digital Link. But for Sunrise 2027, there's two different barcode types and two different ways to write the data that are sort of in scope for this, right? So using healthcare as that example, the regulation states they have to use a data matrix barcode, not a QR. It's another form of 2D barcode that contains the GTIN, the lot, expiration, and serial number. That's what the FDA requires for pharmaceutical traceability, for example. So if you are subject to that regulation, you can't just say, I'm just going to switch it with a QR code and I'll get the same value, right? So it is an ongoing conversation we have with our sort of healthcare team, our executive leaders in the healthcare industry of how to get to one barcode, right? Because there's such a complicated sort of regulatory map across the world. So I would say there's always the option to have a 2D barcode that can be used for its primary use, regulatory, point of sale, whatever that looks like. And there's no reason why you can't have an additional customer engagement QR code on that package as well, right? So you're not limited. You can do either, you can do both, but I would definitely say that regulatory trumps everything else when you're looking at this particular case.
Cool. Awesome. Chris asked, the 2D barcode has benefits to many parts of enterprise. Where are some early adopters focused, and is there a roadmap for evaluating the current status and steps to move forward?
Sure. The early adopters today come in sort of two different forms, let's say. So you have a lot of large, well-established brands. They already have QR codes for customer engagement on their packaging, and they've updated the format to GS1 Digital Link, right? And it is the web address and the GTIN, right? So they're doing the sort of, let's do the upgrade that we need to do. Let's keep it at a minimum for now in terms of the data that we're putting in there, right? And you can find those products in a lot of major retailers today. So they're ready to be scanned once the retail hardware is turned on, right? The second group are businesses that might already be using applications that require more data, right? One of those is RFID tagging in like the apparel industry. I'm not going to go down a technical rabbit hole of RFID, but the point of that is they already have data on their product at a item level. So it's a serialized. I know which exact one-of-one t-shirt I have because of that RFID tag. And if I have that data, I might as well write that to the barcode that's on the same hang tag, right? What that opens up for them is I'm now capturing single item level at my point of sale. So I can say, check, I sold this shirt at this time to this customer. And if they come back to do a return, I can authenticate they're returning the exact one that they've bought, right? So if there's no sales transaction for that item, someone tries to return it, we can identify counterfeit products, things that were entering the gray market, falsified returns or other malicious activities. So one is, let's go with the basics. Let's put the GTIN in there. Let's get ready for 2027. The second is, I've already got more critical data I want to include, and I've got a compelling use case to use that in. Those are the two different categories today.
Excellent.
Yep.
Tyler asked the question about whether or not they're dynamic. Do we need to generate? I answered this. I think everyone can see it, right? So if product information changes, do we need to generate a new GS1 QR code, or can we update the contact dynamically? And not at all. You don't have to reprint, right? The beauty of this is that they are dynamic. All of the back end information can be edited at any time without the need to reprint or regenerate the code. So,
Yep.
yeah. So I don't think there's any other direct questions we are at the half-hour mark.
Mhm.
Oh, what does it say? Sorry, someone just came in. Robert, it sounds as if GS1 Digital Link is ready and is working.
Mhm.
Why do we need to wait till 2027? You don't.
Exactly. Yep. Yep.
You don't have to wait.
Yeah. Yep.
Um,
Yeah. 2027 is a milestone. In order to sort of say, let's keep this retail landscape accountable, I guess. Let's give them a deadline, right? Where we can start to do other things. But yeah, there is no reason to wait for 2027. This can all be done today. It's all fully baked, the technology and the standards.
so we do have some additional slides we can go over with some frequently asked questions. I don't know what do you think, Ned? Where should we go from here?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's a great idea.
All right, let's go ahead. So this is a common one. What is the most ideal step for businesses between now and 2027?
Mhm. Yeah, so there's the way that I like to position this, right, is if your business has a point of sale system, right, you own a retail environment, you have scanners, and you're going to ingest and access that information. There's one set of things you can do to prepare. If you are a brand owner, you're making packaged products in market, you need to make those barcodes, you need to start labeling and so on. There's a slightly different set of things that you might want to do. For anybody managing a point of sale system in retail, the most important first steps are understanding what type of equipment you have out there in the field, right? What is the infrastructure, and whether or not your scanners and hardware systems are capable of reading 2D codes, right? And then what is it going to take to upgrade those to read this new version with GS1 Digital Link? Again, plenty of free tools, all of the hardware solution providers and those companies, we talk to them all the time, the same way we do with brands and retailers. They know what to do. It's just a matter of sort of turning on the configuration. So that'd be the first step. What's the hardware out in the field? Do I know what I can do today? And what's the step between where I am right now and where I need to be, right? For the brands, it really is a matter of making sure you've got the right team put together and you know, where am I currently getting my barcodes from? Who's responsible for issuing the numbers, putting them on the packaging? What is the QA and testing process for that? And then checking the feasibility to just change the data in an existing QR code already on the package, right? It's really kind of as simple as that. There's already a QR code on pack. Changing the way the data is formatted to include the GTIN in the digital link way. And then getting into testing. So the best way to know for sure, did I do my part right as a brand, putting a barcode out there? Did I do my part right as a retailer that's going to read that? Is to partner up and do some testing, do piloting, small scale, large scale, whatever it is. And you can always reach out to GS1 if you need guidance from either side or help managing what that pilot or those test cases might look like.
So Sebastian asked, do retailers need to modify all their reading technologies to read from reading one-dimensional to 2D codes?
Mm-hmm. In most cases, it is as simple as a firmware upgrade. Yeah. So the hardware in the field can read 2D codes. Most retailers turn it off just so they don't scan something by mistake. They don't grab a QR code they don't want to. But we've developed a whole bunch of tools, as I said, to change the different modes, read in different configurations, give them access to understand all the data they might get. So hardware is generally ready. It's a matter of the business making the priority to just do a firmware upgrade and turn that capability on. That's what is going to be required in most cases.
Nice.
Mhm.
How can GS1 QR codes enhance brand storytelling and customer engagement?
Yep. Yep. This is another great question. I think I, again, the QR code is that digital physical bridge, right? It's how you get a consumer from the physical handling of your product to the digital experience that you want to serve them, right? So obviously you can use these to share compelling stories about the product's journey, its life cycle, brand engagement, specific messaging, looking behind the scenes, seeing the production processes, traceability, all of those types of things. But if you think about, again, you've got a G10 that can send your consumer to anything about that product. If you had a G10 and then a lot code, that's a smaller group of products, and you might want to send your customer to a unique experience based on that information. So you can the more specific you are about identifying the physical product, right? So G10 lot, G10 serial number, like I said before, really can help you segment, target, and deliver more specific content to those customers, right? So your sort of brand strategy, your brand product strategy can align with your marketing strategy. And using the lot code as an example, let's say worst case scenario, that is a food product and now it's subject to recall. You can tell your consumers through the same communication, marketing, email channels you might have today. All you have to do is scan the barcode on that product. Your phone is going to know the lot code, and it is going to tell you, is this safe, or should I be worried that this is subject to recall? So again, building better brand trust and relationships by communicating critical things like safety of the product is also possible.
Krista asked if there's a visual difference between one-dimensional and two-dimensional codes.
Yeah. I think one of the previous slides had the sort of head-to-head up there.
Yeah.
Yeah. It really is. 1D means you just have those stripes, those vertical stripes, those bars that communicate data back to the reader. And in 2D, obviously, that's it's a bunch of squares, in a sort of square or rectangular sort of.
Oh, she says between a one-dimensional QR code versus a two-dimensional code. So I would say all QR codes are two-dimensional.
Yeah. Yep.
Yep. The one-dimensional is the barcode itself, the standard.
The linear, yeah.
Yeah.
The barcode. Those are the
Yep.
ones. Yep.
How will the industry-wide transition to 2D barcodes by 2027 impact existing retail and marketing strategies?
Mm-hmm. So that's the 2027 is really about, let's get this functionality in place in retail, like I said, and brands being ready to serve those barcodes to retailers, right? And that's why 2027 is sort of a milestone year, right? So if I can get the satisfying beep, the price lookup at retail point of sale from a 2D, I haven't changed that experience at all, right? That's sort of the minimum requirement, let's say. But what that is going to open up is sort of what I touched on before. Let's imagine every bagged spinach now has also a lot code in the barcode, right? The retailer is going to have a list of recalled, safe or unsafe products. And if you scan that at the point of sale, they can deliver a message to you as the consumer directly to say, hang on a minute, an associate will come over. They want to take a look and make sure everything's fine with your product, right? Another very compelling use of this is you just have the G10 and the expiration date, right? So eggs, milk, take and go sandwiches, things like that. If you've got an expiration date and you can grab that at point of sale, that opens up the possibility to do dynamic pricing. So let's say at 3 o'clock today, anything that expires tomorrow gets a 30% markdown. The point of sale system can be configured to just calculate that math automatically. And now consumers are doing fresh food inventory management, something that's very difficult for retailers and grocers to do, right? And then from a brand standpoint, very similar to what I said before. If you want to send that customer to a specific marketing experience, but they should actually be notified that the product is unsafe, it's out of range for expiry, something like that. Putting it all in the barcode and feeding it to the smartphone means that you can completely change the way you want to serve information back to the customer. So it's going to have a transformational effect on both sides of that equation for sure.
I was trying to find an example. This is the best one I could come up with without going back through the slides. But so I think this works pretty well for the transition, right? So you've got both in one. So the barcode is within the QR code itself.
Yep.
So if their hardware is still only reading the one-dimensional barcode, this will still work for both, right?
Yeah, there's a couple strategies to use. Another one is to have both barcodes located in a specific way. So again, with that transition period, it may be that having both on there just to be completely safe, the full UPC, the full QR code is the best way to go, right?
Yeah.
Just to make sure all the scanning hardware is configured if it's only going to read the 1D or it's only going to read the 2D, right? But yeah, there's a variety of different strategies. We have a guidance available from GS1 on all of those as well.
Right.
Cool.
So I don't know how far we should go. I think people are about ready to hop off. It's been 45 minutes. I think we scheduled this for 30. Totally up to you. We can keep going, but I would say feel free to reach out directly if you have any additional questions and we can get back to you. We will be sending the recording out afterwards. So if it spurs any additional questions, please just reach out to us.